What up, what up? It's the Cam Meekins Show. It's your boy Cam Meekins in here with my friend Nicole Dubois. What's going on, Nicole?
Hey, guys.
So, funny story. We grew up together. We went to high school together. We've known each other for a long time. We've been on our own kind of creative paths. And now you're doing your thing in the acting comedy world, killing it on social media, which has been awesome for me to see. So curious kind of, did you get more into social media and all this stuff because of the pandemic, or how did that whole thing happen for you?
I mean, not really. I posted my first TikTok 2 weeks before COVID became a real thing and we all shut down. So I started before, but I think the pandemic gave me the time to really focus on it. Like the beginning of the pandemic, I was making 3 to 5 TikToks a day just because I had the time.
Right.
I wasn't doing anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, what do I do with all this downtime? And that was one of the things that eventually led me doing the podcast. But for like months there, I was kind of just like feeling weird on social media because I just didn't have anything going on in my life. So I was like, all right, chilling at the crib.
Yeah, and when I first started posting over from TikTok to Instagram, I felt really weird about it because I was like, oh man, like people on Instagram don't want to see this weird stuff I'm doing on TikTok. Like it's kind of embarrassing. Then
So you started with TikTok and Facebook, or both at the same time, or
just TikTok, no Facebook. Did you?
Or sorry, Instagram.
Oh yeah. Just TikTok to start, and then when Instagram came out with Reels, that's when I started Instagram.
Right.
Started posting on Reels, yeah.
And so maybe let's take a step back and kind of tell a little bit of your story so that the listeners can kind of hear the progression a little bit. So, you came, obviously we grew up together in the Boston area, and you've been in LA now, longer than me. And so when you initially got out here, what was your first kind of, thought moving out here?
Yeah, well, I moved out here for college. So I went to LMU and I actually was in the business school. So I moved out here with the idea that I wanted to come act, but I was in business school. And so for the first 4 years I was out here, I was just getting a business degree and I was on the improv team and doing student films. And then I graduated and was like, oh shit, now I really have to be an actress. Now I really have to try. And so, so then I've had a lot of years of failed attempts, a lot of projects that nobody has ever seen. And now finally some of my work is getting out there. It's really cool.
Do you feel like there's been a change in terms of kind of how the acting world and entertainment world in general, works now that there's so many people kind of coming up on their own independently, building a name for themselves independently first, and then transitioning into doing a show or getting some network thing? Do you think that's helping the whole system, or?
I think part of the reason that it took so long to get here is because that's where we're at now. Like you have to be creating your own content. You have to be on social media. It helps so much. But when you go to an acting school or an acting class, you're not learning that. It's kind of like it's almost like you're studying 10 years in the past. So it's something you have to figure out on your own. But yeah, it's just having a social media presence has helped me more than anything I've ever done for my career before.
Yeah, it does seem like there's like these kind of two sides to it, particularly in the acting world, but I see it in the music world too, and maybe any entertainment world. It's like people who are more like traditionalists thinking like, oh, it has to be this type of way that it was before, and other people being a lot more open-minded, saying, no, like just be creative and put your own stuff out there and build your own situation, and then other things will come from there. And
yeah, because it's not like how it used to be. You don't need somebody to cast you in something to get to act anymore,
right?
Because you have a cell phone and you have all the tools you need to put stuff out there.
Right. Do you have any issues dealing with putting stuff out there in terms of just how it feels? Like I would be nervous sometimes.
Yeah, especially if I do something that I know is pushing it. Like if I do something that I know is going to garner some comments, then I get I get nervous and I just close my eyes and push post. But I mean, it was a lot harder in the beginning. It's almost like the more negative feedback you get, the less it affects you.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot easier now. But before I was like, oh my God, if this doesn't get enough views, I have to delete it immediately. Or if this gets negative comments, I have to delete it immediately. Where now I feel like I can just kind of trust myself and expect some hate.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like to me that like TikTok as a platform has more hate than all the other social media platforms too. I mean, maybe that's misreading it, but
Not for me. For me personally, I get way more hate on Instagram.
really,
But I think it depends on what your audience is like. Like I think there are certain subjects that just attract trolls. I did one video where I was like how to make lunch for your boyfriend who's cheating on you, something like that. And it like somehow made it onto the feeds of like every man who hates women. And so that video went crazy. And I wish I hadn't deleted it, but I did because I just couldn't take it anymore. It was like right at the beginning. But I think like if you somehow you get yourself on a side of TikTok that's very negative, but I've been lucky to be on positive TikTok.
yeah, that's what's so crazy is that like everyone's kind of getting their own thing on TikTok, and if you kind of get pushed into this other group over here, all of a sudden it's like you're actually getting put in front of people that are actively disagreeing with what you're talking about, even if you're just fucking around making a joke.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's just like this cycle from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that a lot, and I've been like, I kind of like laugh about it sometimes because there's so many people who are like on the one side trying to say all these things about like, you know, we have to be this way, we have to be apologetic and be understanding, but then like people are like so hateful on TikTok in the comment sections too, so there's kind of that double standard.
Well, yeah, and I mean an example of this is I didn't know that the word triggered is a word that is not supposed to be used anymore because
that's news to me too.
It offends people. It's offensive to people who have real triggers, like they have PTSD and they have real triggers, and the word trigger.
Oh, so if you use it in kind of like a colloquial way, it's kind of offensive.
Yeah, then it's. But I didn't know that, and I didn't know how strongly that opinion was, and I posted something, and in the caption it said triggered, and I got fully attacked by people who are like trying to do the right thing by being like, you can't use this word, how dare you, bull. But then like in doing that, you're also attacking me instead of just being like, hey, like we don't use that word, like try again next time. Just like it was like vicious about the fact that I was offending someone else. It's this really weird thing that's happening about like being really mean to people because you think that they're being offensive. It's so weird.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like, yeah, doing the same thing that you're saying is not okay to do to someone for doing something that you think is not okay to do. It's like, it's kind of mind-boggling.
It is, and it's so hypocritical. It's so weird.
But when you're trying to do comedy too, like you need to have some headroom to push the limit a little bit, right? Because otherwise there's nothing funny in anything and everything becomes serious. So how do you walk that line?
I don't know. That's something I'm still trying to figure out, honestly, because what my comedy was 3 years ago versus what it is now is so different, just really because of just kind of tiptoeing around this social media culture, not wanting to like incite those kinds of comments and stuff. It is really hard. I honestly don't have an answer for it. I test the waters. Like that's what I mean when I say like I get nervous before I post something that is pushing it a little bit. It's like something that verges on some kind of social issue. That's when I get nervous because I don't know how it's gonna I don't know how people are gonna respond.
Yeah. And well, things also just kind of get blown out of perspective or you know, taken out of context too with the way that we consume content, because and that's why I kind of was like stoked to start a podcast too, is because you can actually talk shit for like a long amount of time and be a little bit more clear about what you're trying to say.
But I am going to take small portions of different things that you say and post it on my Instagram, just to kind of trash you.
Of course, as you should.
Okay.
But like, you know, I think that, you know, there's just so much of that now with every social media platform, not just TikTok. It's just taking like the little soundbite or the little clip out of context, or just taking one thing and not even knowing like, who is this person? What do they actually believe? Are they really in the right or the wrong? Just if you say like one thing that's like not cool to say anymore, it's game over, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, I get it too, because we have to, you know, be, you know, mindful of things and communicate. But I think it's all about communication at the end of the day. That's what it boils down to. It's like, let's talk about what the right things are and what the wrong
and like,
things are.
give me a break. I'm 27. I'm not in high school with you, keeping up with all the issues. Like,
Facts.
I gotta learn. I'm gonna learn a little bit later.
Right. Right.
It goes like this from high school, and I get it like out here. So I need a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. So, you know, I'm still trying to figure it out. So what's your creative process like when you're creating content, when you're creating all your videos and stuff like that? Do you kind of just go off the top, or are you having planning sessions in your head? Like, what's that like for you?
Yeah, I very rarely actually improv it, because it has to be 30 seconds, and it's just so hard if you're not word specific. So I do, like, I write out loud. I say, like, I sit in front of my computer and I just talk to it. Like, I talk to my computer for 30 minutes and then kind of write stuff down as I go. If you saw me and you didn't know I was doing that, you'd think I was an absolute crazy person.
Like, you have a thing that like reads what you're saying, like it types it out?
No. Like, no. I'm like just sitting there talking to myself, and then I'll type something if it's funny, and then I just keep talking, and I'll type something, and then I'll read it out loud. And I kind of do it that way, and then I settle on a script and then film it. I'm a little phone tripod.
Yep. Yeah. That's you know, I think that's the beauty of like what's going on right now, is you can just kind of do all of this stuff from your house. And I feel like that I've been on that wave for like 10 years with the music shit that I'm doing. And I think it's so cool to see that now, not just music, but really every creative industry is at this point where the big distribution and marketing and infrastructure kind of pillars that were gatekeeping these industries for so long are no longer there. And so it's kind of democratized the way that, like, you know, talent is discovered in the world. And also it's not up to some Joe Schmo, like, creepy dude at a studio or whatever. It's on the people to say, like, I like this person's funny, this person's a good artist, this person's a great singer, this person's a great comedian. And then it grows from there.
I think TikTok has been great because of the way that their algorithm is set up. It's like, it's not, you know, Instagram, it's kind of like you have followers to get followers. And if you have followers, you're being seen. But TikTok, the algorithm is like, if it's good, it's going to go. So I think it's opened up the doors for so many people.
Yeah. Did you have one thing that just like took off on TikTok to really get it started, or how did that happen?
The first video was Hallmark Be Like. That was the first one to hit 1 million. And that's like a Hallmark movie parody, like the woman in every Hallmark film. And then after that, it was like Girl from Florida, and then White Woman, and then The Worst Person to Go on Vacation With. And I have like a bunch of different series that people like that I just do over and over.
So what's your favorite part about this you know, career that you've found now? Is it just the fact that you can do it in your own way? Like, what do you like about how you're doing things now?
Yeah, there's so much creative control over like what I'm putting out. You know, even doing live shows, like I was doing a lot of live shows before, and yeah, you write the sketches and stuff, but then it's directed and you're working with other people, and there's rewrites and all this stuff. And now everything I'm putting out really does come directly from my brain, which is really cool because I have complete control over the brand and the brand of comedy.
Right. So you're talking about like sketch, you were doing like sketch comedy stuff?
Yeah, I was doing a bunch of live shows before they stopped happening.
Yeah. What's that like? What's like the sketch comedy world like traditionally
so
prior
fun.
to this TikTok world?
So fun, and I miss it so much. The way that we would do it, me and like the group that I would do it with, is we would get a show date, and then we would have pitch meetings, and we'd all bring a bunch of sketches we wrote, and we'd collab with each other. We'd write stuff together, and you'd pitch them, and then some would be a no, some would be a rewrite night. You all bring all the sketches that you rewrote with the notes, and then whoever's directing picks what's going to be in the show. And then you usually have like literally a week to costume it, rehearse it, memorize it, block it, and then a week later you're on stage doing these sketches. It's so fun. It's so much different having a live audience, a supportive live audience, because obviously if they're coming to see you, they want to see you. So
Yeah, you're not getting any hate comments from a live audience.
yeah, you'll get the occasional grandpa like sitting in the front, like,
Right.
but
So do you think that the process is different between like that world of comedy and then now like the online stuff that's so relevant, or do you think that it's the same process, just a new kind of platform?
it's a similar process. I mean, everything I do is like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So a sketch that you're putting on stage is like 5 pages, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So the difference is you just have to get the joke out really fast, punchline really fast, and that's it. And use the captions, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, I guess that is kind of crazy that you have to get like the whole entire substance of what you're trying to say into like 30 seconds. I mean, when I'm like doing these podcasts, I have to get these like 30-second clips that I'll put. I mean, I don't have to, but like I'm trying to like put them on social media. And it's like, man, it's hard to find 30 seconds of something that's a whole like subject in you know what I mean? Like we could talk for 10 minutes and finally get one point across, and to break that down into 30 seconds is almost like impossible. So to be able to tell a joke in that amount of time is really, it's, you know, its own skill in its own right.
Yeah. It comes from the same place in your brain, but it is kind of its own animal.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of kids that are coming up now and living with these platforms, like the way that they consume stuff and consume comedy and everything else is going to be completely different than even
and they're
when
better
you and
at it. They're so much better at it than us.
Well, because they're just like on the front lines of it, you know, like they absorb that shit all day, and they're in school talking like that, and it's just probably like completely consumes their life, as did like, you know, I don't know, AIM for us or something like that. Like, I don't know. There's no real like comparison, but it's just crazy. I think there's a clear difference between people who went to high school with social media like Instagram and Snapchat and stuff, and people who didn't. And I feel like we were on the tail end of that.
When did you get Instagram? I think I got it in college, like sophomore year maybe.
Yeah, I think, and like I was trying to promote my music even when I was in high school, as you know, but like even then, like there wasn't really social media too much. It was like Facebook and a little bit of Twitter.
Yeah.
But not even anything real. And there was definitely no Instagram. Like it was probably 2013, 2012 when I got Instagram. And so I was already out of high school at that point. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine what it would have been like just socially and, you know, everything else if you have, you know, Instagram and all these other platforms. Like when you're 15 years old, it's just a completely different world.
I mean, we had Facebook. We were like, I was going back and looking at like my first year of Facebook and the things that I used to write back and forth to people on their walls and the videos.
Oh my God.
Pictures. We were not cool. Like kids, I feel like kids now are cool. Like we were not cool.
For sure. It was a completely different time.
I mean, you were kind of always cool because you were like doing music and.
No, I definitely wasn't. I was definitely on some different shit back then for sure. But I think when we were in high school, from a social media standpoint, it was like go to a party and have like a digital camera, and like one person would like upload all the photos from the
Yes, the
party onto Facebook
the albums. Oh my God.
and like blur out the beer cans and like,
Yeah.
do shit like that. And then you'd like hear about someone getting in trouble because there was like a Facebook photo with someone like, and they had alcohol in it. And it's like, but I can't imagine the crazy shit that's going on now.
Yeah, like some
everyone's
like
got,
moms would print out the pictures of kids drinking and like fax them to the principal.
right. Right. I wonder if like school leadership has almost built up like a tolerance because there's just so much more access to what's going on now that like they're probably like, yeah, like we can't stop half of this shit. Like sometimes we have to turn a blind eye.
I feel like the last thing, if I was a teacher, I would want to do is look at a student's Instagram.
Yeah.
Like the last thing I would want to do.
Right. Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind.
But I think their parents monitor it better now because everyone has it. Like our parents didn't really have Facebook when we.
Yeah, you could kind of, you could, slide under the radar and be chilling.
Yeah.
But everyone kind of knows what, where the kids are now doing different things. I sound old as fuck with this whole subject line.
The kids these days.
That's how I'm feeling. That's like my vibe these days. But I think that, because of that, because of having access to social media when you're super young and you're in school and you're with all these people and like there's just the ability to just like group think and just kind of like pounce on ideas and just like jump on top of different trends and everything like that. And I think that's also kind of what leads to people feeling like they want to like kind of gang up on an issue and say like, oh, this is wrong, like you can't do this, blah blah blah. And it's like kids just love to have something that they're all kind of like saying is like not cool to do.
Because
right?
It's like all about individuality now and being authentic and being your authentic self and all this like individuality, and then but you have to be thinking the same on the things we're all thinking the same on. It's this
right.
It's so weird to me. It really is. I won't fully understand it. And I'm excited for someone to write a book explaining it to me.
But I think as you get older in life too, you start to realize that like it's awesome to be idealistic in that sense and like want things to be exactly perfect, but it's not realistic.
Yeah.
And so we start to be
like, you just have this like intense need to fit in.
Yeah.
And so like you have to fit in by also being authentic to yourself, but then also you want to fit in with what everyone else is doing. But wait, you can't copy someone because that's not authentically yourself. It must be hard.
Well, that's true. It's a good point that you make that like people are to the extreme trying to be like their own individual now. And I don't think it was like that for us when we were kids, because it was all about like kind of be whatever the trend was. Like as for me as a guy, it was like, you wore particular clothes and you talked a certain way, and if you didn't, then like it wasn't cool or whatever, and you're all kind of doing the same exact thing.
Like basketball shorts and work boots.
Right. Yeah, Timberlands. I was just about to say that.
And sports sweatshirts.
Right. Yeah. And like there's no individuality whatsoever, and no open-mindedness to like anyone being different in any type of way, or any kind of differences whatsoever was like not the thing. But now if it's all about individuality, there's still a need as a kid to feel like you're fitting in too.
Yeah.
So it's like
if you're not different enough, then you're not cool. So you have to find out how you're different.
Right.
Like,
yeah. But yeah, I just think that a lot of the stuff that we see online isn't really a full representation of like kind of how the whole country feels. It's just that there's like a lot of young people and a lot of particular people that are online trying to like, say certain things. And I'm not saying that these things are bad. Like I think that like we should be like calling people out for like saying fucked up shit, or if they're doing something, whatever. But I think that there's some times where like someone will make a mistake and they get like absolutely canceled, and it's like, well, hold on, let's just like have a conversation about it. And maybe like if that person's going to apologize and they're like genuinely clearly showing like I understand that it was a mistake and like I want to make the change, maybe we should listen to that. Like as adults we can all understand that to a degree if it's something that's not super egregious that someone has done. If you've like, said something racist and horrible and you're clearly just like a racist person, then like, well, fuck you, whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's not black and white.
Yeah,
all the
I
time.
agree. Like what's happening right now is amazing. It's great that we're forming an understanding that not everyone's the same, and the acceptance that's happening and like the social issues that are being brought up are fantastic. But yeah, it's like we're on this tear of like fix everyone in everything. But some people, they just need a little bit more understanding. Like they don't need to be canceled. They don't know something.
Right. And we should give them an opportunity to show that they understand that they did something wrong, because otherwise you're not really going to have any people left.
Comes out right before something like terrible comes out about us in the news.
Listen, I welcome it.
Pleading with everyone, like, please just give everyone a second chance. Whatever you hear about me.
Like, right. Just, we're just putting those seeds out there to just, have the opportunity to come out on the other side of the next big scandal.
Yeah. Which is coming out tomorrow about us in the news.
Right. But, I just, it's the old guy in me these days.
Yeah. You're pretty freaking old these days.
I mean, I'm saying, but, I'm curious. I wanted to ask you because in my experience, it was interesting and something that I kind of, saw in my own life. And I'm curious how you feel growing up, the way that you and I did, and going on this creative path as an artist and as an actor and comedian and doing everything that you do. Did you ever feel pressure to not go down that path and, maybe think about doing a more traditional path in your life and your career? And how did you kind of overcome that if you ever felt that pressure, or did you never?
For me, it was kind of the opposite. Like I've always felt this pressure to succeed at this because I was always like, Nicole's doing acting and Nicole is a performer, and she's going to go be a big actress, and like, you're going to go do that. Like, it always felt like everyone was like so on my side because I was like, not very many people were doing it. They're like, oh man, when you get famous, it's going to be like this. When you get famous, it's going to be like this. And so I almost felt like more of a pressure to like, oh my God, if I don't succeed at this, how embarrassing for me that we all thought I would. Like, how embarrassing for me. And like, if I do decide to just, because, for like 2 years before I started like having this TikTok success and like actually starting to make some money acting, every day I would wake up and be like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like it is so draining. It's not working. I've been doing this for so many years. Like I have a business degree. Maybe I should just get a job and just give it up. But I feel like in that, it was almost like I was afraid to even have to tell anyone that I had made that decision. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of the opposite. Like I felt this pressure from my family, from everyone back home, from all the friends. It was almost like the opposite pressure. It was like the pressure to succeed at being an artist because you're our artist.
That can be extremely motivating.
Did you feel that at all? Because you were like the music guy.
Yeah, 100%. No, I was, my superlative was most likely to be famous.
Yeah, that's hard, right? It's hard when everyone expects you to get to the top level of this thing that is nearly impossible to do.
Right.
So it's almost like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge motivator. That's really interesting to hear you say it. And as I'm listening to it, I definitely feel the same way. And I feel like there's a lot of drive that comes from that because you the last thing that anyone wants to do is say like, no, I'm going to go do this thing. You just watch and then you don't do it. And you're like, oh, fuck, like I have to go back and like, just pick the pieces
up.
And
for years and years, everyone being like, so what are you up to? And me being like, I'm still at the acting. And they're like, oh man, that's so cool. It's so cool you're still doing that. Good for you. And then it's like, fuck, well, what if I quit?
Right. Yeah. And for me, it was always like, I've got this like drive in me in my life just from, like just, I don't know, like my perspectives just changed when I like had my whole like jet ski accident thing. And it was like this big thing that kind of just like gave me perspective on life. And it kind of just gave me the opinion that like, man, like you only have like one life. Like, live your life the way that you want to. And so I've always felt very confident that like I'm going to do this creative stuff. I'm going to be a musician and just pave my own way no matter how hard it is at some times. Like, I'm just going to figure it out. But, you know, as life humbles you, you do, you know, constantly think like, man, like, you know, I'm not kind of getting where I want to get. And, you know, do I, you know, do I want to continue to do this or whatever? And, you know, when you have that, just, you know, the idea that you were supposed to kind of do this thing behind you, it can be really helpful in a way, you know, because having no backup plan is like the best thing in the world. That's what I always say, is like no backup plan is the best way to do it, because you're just forced. I mean, there's two choices at that point, right? Either you get to the thing that you were trying to do and you succeed and you get all the success that you wanted and you achieve the goal. If the goal is to be, you know, a famous musician, like you either get there or you die and you're not there to see it not happen. So like, you know, that's my whole perspective on it. It's like, if you never give up, you will only get there, you know, if you're always on the journey.
I would always think about like, okay, so if I do quit and I do get a job, if I could even, like so many years out of college in marketing, which is my major, which I know nothing about marketing. If I did like get a job in doing something like that, like would I be sitting at my desk in 2 years being like, I wonder if I could have, if I had just given it another year. And if I had quit, the answer would have been like, probably.
Yeah.
You know, like if you try long enough, probably.
Well, and each individual has their own kind of, you know, right to an opinion on that type of stuff too. And I always, when I have these conversations with people about life and like what you want to do and whatever, like a lot of times people will ask me that type of stuff because they see that I'm on a path that was like my own choice and it wasn't the traditional path. I didn't even go to college or do any of this stuff. And they'll, you know, I'll have these conversations with people all the time. And I think what it boils down to is like, everyone's got their own kind of priority list in terms of what's important and where those things rank. And for some people, stability is super, super important. It's more important than, you know, creative freedom and, you know, being able to express yourself and, you know, following your passion. Like some people care more about the stability than they do about their passion. You know, they might be super into painting, but they don't feel that the, you know, the risks outweigh the rewards, or the rewards outweigh the risks. And so they don't do it. And I think that's everybody's right. But I think that we would all benefit from having that conversation a little bit more, because I feel like there are probably a lot of people out there that would take the risk, you know, if they were kind of given that chance, or if they, you know, were just talked to a little bit differently growing up. And, you know?
Yeah, I think I did kind of have it easy as an artist growing up, because my mom and my dad and my sister were so supportive of it. Like from the time I like decided I really wanted to be a dancer, and my mom was like, you're a dancer, and like that's all, you know, so supportive of like the arts and like follow your dream, and like if you want to be an actress, go be an actress, you know. So I think it was easier to get to where I am having that kind of an upbringing.
Yeah, I feel the same. My dad was a similar way, and my mom. But, you know, particularly my dad, I think, had this kind of opinion that I remember him saying a lot growing up. It's like, you know, as long as you're doing something that you're, you know, passionate about and you're really like, you know, you care about it and you're actually doing it and you're putting the work in, I'm good, you know. And I think I had this conversation with him when I kind of was at the point where I was definitely not going to go to college and I was going to pursue music. And granted, at the time, like I was about to sign to a record deal and like this whole thing. So like the opportunity was like legitimate. It was actually there. But, you know, I was like 17 years old and it was this conversation of like, you know, what are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And his perspective always was just like, if you're putting the time in, you're passionate about it, like I fully support it 100%. And he was just like all the way supportive. And I don't know that I would have felt the confidence to do what I've done in my life if it weren't for that. And another thing I chop it up to too a lot of times is some of the teachers that you and I both had growing up, which is really cool that like I've got you on this podcast, because I've talked about this a lot with different people, but there's not often.
Let's rank all our teachers from favorite to least favorite.
Right. Now that would get the people going.
Yeah.
But
people they don't know about.
But yeah, those small things when you're growing up, like they can end up making a big difference. And I really don't think that I would be doing what I'm doing if it weren't for the fact that I like got into like a music technology class when I was like in ninth grade or whatever.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't be in comedy if Ro, our drama teacher, didn't teach improv the first year of acting class. Like freshman year, you
right,
learn improv. And I was like, this is amazing. Improv's the best thing ever. And improv is how I got into comedy.
right. Yeah. No, exactly. And like those little things can make a huge difference in people's lives. And so, for me, it's just humbling. It's also just, it makes me very appreciative to be in the place that I'm in, because it's kind of random at the end of the day. Like I could have not gotten that exposure to the right teacher and the right environment, and and all the privileges that I have been able to have just growing up. It's just random, and so that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, those moments with particular teachers were life changing for me in particular, because I was just such a horrible student. Like I was like failing out of school at one point.
I was
And
too.
yeah,
When I transferred schools, I was failing math, and I left halfway through junior year before I had to like take the final test. And I was like, well, I can't fail because I'm leaving. Bye.
yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm out. Yeah. No, I mean, I was at a point where it's just like, my grades were so bad, and just the way that I was as a student was just not sustainable. But I think it was guys like Dr. Mack and Rowe and Mr. Scott, the performing arts teachers who I connected with like super strong. And on a number of ways, they helped me kind of navigate that whole situation, but also just with their energy, they showed that they kind of supported the path that I was on. They understood that I was trying to do something that was unconventional and in the music lane, and they overlooked that I was like not getting a good grade in English or whatever.
Yeah. And those are the only classes, those three teachers that you just said, those are the only teachers I remember from high school. Like those are the only classes I remember. And both of them like follow me on Instagram. They like comment on my stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're still so supportive.
Yeah.
We got really lucky with our performing arts teachers.
100%.
I feel like that's the whole education I got in high school. That's all that mattered for me, were like those teachers.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, there's, and you're right. They don't really teach you anything practical at that point, like in high school. And so for both you and I, with what we do, like that's the type of stuff that was actually relevant from like a educational standpoint. But I mean,
it's good I know what a verb is, and it's good like I know basic knowledge. I'm not saying I didn't learn anything in high school.
Right.
But like the really important lessons and the passion definitely came from those classes.
Well, and I think what you learn too in those situations too is oftentimes not just the random curriculum or whatever, but it's bigger than that. Like I think, Dr. Mack's like energy for me, and like the way that he kind of like gave me some confidence was probably like one of the most valuable things in my life. And same with Roe, and with
help us accountable. Like if you missed, like you can't miss anything. Like if you're in the play and you miss rehearsal, well, guess what? Like you're not in the play, and like your role's taken away. Like you have to be there, and you have to be accountable, and there's consequences if you're not. Like I think a lot of that too is like being diligent and being held accountable for art, like because you need a work ethic for what we're doing too.
100%. Yeah, I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot too in the world that we live in, is that like discipline and hard work is actually more needed in something like this than it is in a 9-to-5 job, because you clock in, you clock out. Okay, cool. You're on the clock for that amount of time, and you have to be disciplined during that time period. But for something that you're doing on your own independently, you have to be a self-starter. You have to be disciplined enough to create your own timeline, know that you have to sit in front of your computer and write out what you're doing, write out your sketches and everything else. Like that that demands a ton of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I completely agree with that. But yeah, the last thing I'll say on the teachers thing too is Mr. Scott in particular, and I don't know if you knew him a ton, but he was the
Not really. I was like fully tone deaf, so I don't
right.
think he would have.
Yeah, he was the band teacher, so
Yeah.
maybe not your lane as much as mine, but
No.
he also had this music technology class, which is really where I started doing music. And I would literally skip class and go up into the music technology like lab where there was like a little like basically recording studio, and I would just make music like all day. And he would just let me do that. And, looking back, like he definitely could have gotten in trouble for it, but he and I just had that relationship. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm here today, like 100%, because I was able to like perfect my craft. And in that exact studio is when my friend Joel told me, hey, rap on this song. And that's how I first started actually rapping on music instead of just like making beats.
Yeah.
So,
And you like really did. You like really, really started in high school.
yeah.
Like you were making. Like when did you put out your first album?
So, I mean, my first album that kind of was distributed in a significant level was in probably I think it was my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And that was the 1993 mixtape. And before that, I was making like little mixtapes here and there too, and like literally burning them on CDs and passing them out in school. And so, no, I really did start like my junior year of high school, just kind of giving the music to people in the school, and then it would kind of build around the towns around there, and then going to other schools, like handing out CDs, like literally in person, and then
Yeah.
putting the music on YouTube. And I remember being in high school and like I put my first song on YouTube, and the next day it got like 300 views. I was like, oh, this is fucking crazy. Like, and I was like in some class, like looking at those numbers and being like, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then,
That was awesome.
yeah, it was cool. It was a different time in terms of, that was the first time that people were kind of like independently putting music on the internet. It wasn't really a thing at that point. But yeah, by the time I was a senior, I had actually kind of gotten some fans, not just like in school, but some actual like fans of my music, and put out a mixtape through this like music blog, and it got, a ton of eyes and ears on it. And that's how I kind of got my first start into music.
Yeah. So young.
Yeah. It's weird because it's given me kind of this perspective where I've been doing it professionally for a pretty long time now, but I'm still only 28,
Yeah.
And so it's a cool place to be.
And do you feel like now you're just kind of coming into yourself? Like I feel like now, I mean, I asked you a question and then I started talking about myself.
Well, that's what we do on the
that's how I
podcast. That's how it goes.
It's like everything before this was just kind of learning, and now I kind of get it.
I completely agree with that. I think, we, knock on wood, we've all got long lives ahead of us, and, we're barely in the first chapter. That's how I feel. And so for everything that I've already done, I'm like, cool, like this is awesome. I feel super, happy about things that I've accomplished, all these different things that have happened in my career already. But I also feel like I'm just getting started. Like I could go so many different places with this, and that's a great place to be. And I think that's kind of what leads to success overall. And I'm curious what you think about this. Is like, it's all about how you're feeling in the moment with the journey, like as you've found more and more success, like what do you think from a mental standpoint, what's been like your key to getting there, like what gets you up in the morning and makes you feel like you want to build your brand and get these videos out there and do all this stuff?
I think it's a genuine love for doing it. Like I love doing these characters, and I love writing things, and I love trying to make people laugh. And I think just a genuine love for what I'm doing, and the drive of like, I have been doing this for so long. Like it's almost like this sprint, and you don't stop sprinting because you've been sprinting for so long. And every day feels like I'm so close. I'm so close to this next hurdle. And then you get to the hurdle and you're not even thinking about the hurdle you just passed anymore, because your eyes are already on the next one. And so every time you get to an accomplishment that you were trying to get to, there's another one you want. So it's just this constant sprint. It's exciting. It's exhausting. but I love to do it.
That's the whole thing is that on that chase to the next hurdle, you love that feeling still in the moment, no matter what level you're at in the whole process. When it's
Hmm.
that, the first iteration of that, that first thing that you feel like is success, winds up being like not that big of a deal once you're like down the road
Right.
and you've done a lot more cool shit. But at the time, it feels like such a great win, and you have to appreciate those wins and keep it moving. And that headspace is, I think, what kind of can just really lead to fulfillment in general, and success in your life. And it's such a key
Hmm.
thing. And I love talking to people about it, especially people who are kind of on their own path, having to kind of figure it out
Yeah.
themselves, not a
It
part of any
also
big system.
it can make you happy. It can also make you really depressed. Like I
Yeah.
think it really does depend on where your mental state is at, because like when I first got on TikTok, I would say to my mom, like, oh, I just want to get to 100,000 followers. Like, if I can just get to 100,000 followers, then I'll have something to tell people. And then then I was on the phone with her, and I was like, I've been trying so hard to hit the 500,000. Like, it's been weeks, and I've just been at like, and she was like, do you remember when all you wanted was to hit 100,000? And I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, so when are you going to be happy? I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that's so true. When am I going to, I guess now, I guess I have to be happy now.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? What is the answer there? Like,
Like, when are you going to be happy?
like,
Well,
is it
that's the
is it a
thing.
moment that you hit some milestone that because I personally, I don't think that that's what it is, but I'm
No,
curious what you think.
it can't be, because every time I hit a milestone, I'm looking at the next milestone. So
Yeah.
hitting a milestone can't be how you measure your happiness, because you'll never achieve happiness, because you never, like, there's always more. There's always more in this kind of industry. So I think being happy is just like kind of just like being happy with what you already have. You have to find a way to be happy. And also the work itself. If you just focus on how happy doing the work makes you, but focusing on like, oh man, but I don't have this yet. Oh man, but I haven't booked that TV show yet. It's like, well then you're never going to be happy, because you're operating at a loss,
Yeah.
at a
Well, you're
lack.
kind of thinking like, if only this, then I'll be happy, and
Yeah.
really that's not what it's gonna boil down to. But I think that's a good point. I feel like it's about, you know, the individual kind of moments that we
Hmm.
create, and in particular moments with people, with loved ones, friends and family, like those type of, being able to say like this is a moment in time, no matter what level of success you're at or aren't at,
Hmm.
appreciating those moments can give you happiness.
Yeah. And all the
That
parts of your life too. Like, recognize your friends, like recognize
right.
family members that you're like, recognize how great the normal parts of your life are.
Yeah. And I think it's a balance too, because I think some of that drive is good if you're someone who's motivated and you want to do bigger things in your life, which is a choice.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't have to be complicated, but some people choose that complicated path of like, I want my life to be this complex thing, and I want to get to this, crazy successful level, or,
Mhm.
be famous acting, or whatever. And that's a hectic lifestyle. Like, not everybody is going to want that at the end of the day. I think we all think that we do, but if every single human being was given the opportunity to live the life of like, some, super high achieving person, they might be like, I'm burned out. This is like too much. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's a choice for sure. But if you're on that path and you want to be on that path, I think that like weird, almost like depressive motivation of like, it's like this next thing is going to like bring me, is like an addiction. You're like, this next thing is just like, if I could just get there.
It is like it's an adrenaline.
Right.
It's Yeah, it is an addiction. And just the same way, I think I think doing live shows is an addiction. Like, hearing laughter, the adrenaline, being nervous, I think all of that is like an addiction.
A
Addicted to
hundred
like the
percent it is.
feeling, the feeling of being scared, and then going out in front of people and doing something, and you don't know if they're going to like it or not. It's like an addiction to the fear of that.
Well, when you're doing music too, like, and you do a live show, it's like you're on stage and these people are like there to see you do something. And it's just this massive kind of, just flood of serotonin and just, shock to like your ego. And it
Yeah.
makes you think that like you're just like this like godlike figure in a way, right? And it's like
And
kind of
I've
just
seen
fucked
you
up.
live too. You like when you're live, you have endless energy.
Well,
Like
you feed off of that of
your
the
live
crowd, yeah.
performances are. It's like you're a crazy person.
Yeah. No,
In
I
a good
think,
way.
yeah, no, I appreciate that because it's like there's something that you get from a situation like that that is not really, able to be attained in any other kind of normal life setting, and it is probably
That
something.
energy.
Yeah, the adrenaline of people, but I think a lot of artists can get kind of confused by that almost because it can become like an addiction to like that admiration of people. And at the end of the day, like people don't really admire you like that. Like they're at a concert to have fun. And like, when I'm in a crowd at a concert and I'm watching someone else, that's what I'm doing as a audience participant. That's just the role. Like we all are just playing roles in life.
Right. And then you walk off stage and you walk into Trader Joe's and you're just buying oranges. Like, and everyone in there doesn't give a shit who you are.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So you have to have your head on straight.
Well, and then you're like, fuck, like I need that. Like, nobody in this Trader Joe's is like giving me that love. Like I need more like love and attention toward myself. And I think that's why a lot of like artists are kind of like, they're seeking attention in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think that can kind of be why in the arts in particular, there's often more issues, substance abuse issues and all these different things that we hear about because
you're chasing something that's intangible.
Well, it's kind of like why are you kind of on this path? Like sometimes it's really about I love music and I'm just like a really talented creative person, but I think other times like chasing like fame and status and stuff like that can come from a darker place too.
Totally. Totally. Same with comedy. Comedy can come from a really dark place. I haven't figured out yet if my comedy is coming from a dark place, but
they say that, right? The comedy is like some of the darkest, things lead to like really good comedy.
There's a country song about it.
Well, there's a country song about everything. So what are you excited for in terms of, the future for your brand and what you're doing and everything that you got going on? I mean, for one, I'm excited to just like get out of the house, but.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm excited to if I got to do a live show again, that would be awesome. And I'm excited to see like, if I do a live show again, and if I do promote it on my socials that are now grown, like, is it going to sell out?
100%.
Like, what's going to happen? Like, are there going to be people there that aren't family and friends that like I didn't text and say, please, can you come to my show?
Well, I feel like it would be dope to do some individual stuff too. Like, have you considered doing like stand up or anything like that, like on your own or?
Yeah, possibly. I don't like normal stand up. Like I don't like getting up there and telling punchlines, but I have been kind of working on how can I take all my characters from TikTok and turn it into an act. Mm-hmm. So not like a one woman show, not something that dramatic, but some kind of like comedy stand up type thing with the characters. So I am working on that. And then, I'm excited to take all of these characters to the next step of what they can be. I'm writing the Hallmark woman. I'm writing her into a web series and just taking these characters off of TikTok and putting them into more narrative settings.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's what's up. I love that. Nikki Dubes, killing it. I appreciate you.
Porter gave me that nickname.
Yeah, shout out to Stu. He's getting married.
Yeah.
Shout out.
No.
That's my guy. But yeah, that's funny because is that what you go on social medias? Is that what your TikTok is?
Yeah, Nikki Dubes. It's Nikki Dubes everywhere. And my Instagram's been Nikki Dubes since I got an Instagram, just because that was my nickname. That's what everyone called me.
Right.
So, and then I've just been using it since.
Yeah. No, I know it's funny. Like my girlfriend independently like became a really big fan of your videos, and I was like, oh yeah, I went to high school with her. Like I know her, and she was like, oh, Nikki Dubes, and I was like, yeah.
I know, because that's what people called me in high school. Isn't it weird that now like everyone like calls if you don't know me, they're like, oh, Nikki Dubes.
Yeah, right. Like that's all they see. It's like, oh yeah, okay, makes sense. But it's I was laughing about that, but. I appreciate you coming on the show. This has definitely been fun, and you know, since you're out here in LA too, we'll definitely have to do it in person once I'm starting to do them in person too. So we'll do another one for sure, and you know, sometime in the next I don't know 6 months or something like that, they'll eventually be.
Anymore.
Time is completely relative, you know, except for how I'm feeling age wise, but like I just lost track of days in the week, but. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. So where can people follow you? I know we just said Nikki Dubes on TikTok. Is that what it is on Instagram too?
Yeah, TikTok, Instagram, those are the main platforms I post on. Nikki Dubes, NICKYDOOBS.
Shouts out. Nikki Dubes in the building. It's the Cam Meekins Show. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate all you guys for all the support, for tuning in. Tell a friend about the show. Follow Nikki Dubes on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, not Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. And let's go. Peace.
Bye.